The discussion between Ayanokoji and Kei's relationship has a huge discussion in the Classroom the Elite community. I mean, ever since they've been together, there's been a ton of discussions about the future of the relationship. But I think now in the current state of the series, especially ever since volume 9.5 of second year came out, I think a lot of people are now really discussing as to what is actually going to happen between these two, myself included, because it's been a while since I've generally had a full detailed discussion about Ayanokoji and Kei, because in the past second year volumes there hasn't really been a huge difference in the relationship between the two. They still acted like a couple, but ever since volume 9 and 9.5, of course things have changed drastically, and now that we know one of Ayanokoji's plans, it is very clear that there is something going to happen between Ayanokoji and Kei. Now, of course, before we begin, I do have to give out a warning because I am going to spoil things that happened in volumes 9 and 9.5. So, of course, if you are not up to date with the series or you haven't, read the recent volumes of Classroom the Elite, then you have been warned because I am going to talk about things that happen in a lot of these volumes. So, with that out of the way, let's just begin. Obviously, the biggest topic a lot of people have been discussing a lot quite recently is it going to happen? Is Ayanokoji and Kei going to break up? This is something that I've been seeing a lot in discussions. I've seen a lot of people say, are they actually going to break up? Because for a while, it wasn't really 100% concrete proof that, Ayanokoji and Kei were going to break up. But after reading 9.5, in which we find out that one of Ayanokoji's plans is to feel love, he wants to experience what it is to actually feel something for someone, because he states, according to him, he doesn't feel anything when he's around Kei. Now, of course, because he said this, I've seen a lot of people say how all this time Ayanokoji never cared for Kei and that this relationship of his was all just a part of his plan. And to that I say, that's not really true. I mean, one thing you have to notice about Ayanokoji, and you have to really realize about him as a character, is that he is not 100% honest. I don't understand why so many people have forgotten about this information, that Ayanokoji isn't always 100% honest. Some things that he says are either true or false, and he sometimes does this on purpose in order to trick not only the characters of the series, but also trick the reader who is reading this series as well. I mean, there have been many times in which Ayanokoji has kind of contradicted himself in some sort of way. And as an example, I'm going to use the most recent example that was shown in volume 9.5 of second year. That's right, the most recent volume. So like I mentioned earlier, it was in this volume that Ayanokoji revealed that one of his plans is to see what actual true love for him is, because apparently he hasn't really felt that with Kei. Like, he hasn't really had any reaction whenever he's close with Kei. Now, at face value, that may seem like, yeah, Ayanokoji doesn't care about Kei, and it seems that Ayanokoji hasn't really been interested in Kei for a really long time. However, one important detail that he kind of contradicted himself with was when he was patching things up with Kei, in which he gives Kei her gift, and that gift was a necklace. He reveals that this necklace is actually a necklace that Kei has wanted for a long time. So with this alone, it shows that Ayanokoji is keeping an eye on Kei, and it seems that he is paying attention to what she wants and needs, which just shows how much effort he's putting in this relationship. I know some people are going to say, well, of course he needs to do this because he can't convince Kei, otherwise Kei's just going to think that he's not being serious with the relationship. However, that's not the case, because once again, this is Kiyotaka Ayanokoji we're talking about. This is the same guy that has been able to, for a while, be able to convince people that he is not a threat, that he is somebody that is completely harmless. And in my opinion, I think there were many other methods Ayanokoji could have been able to use in order to convince Kei that everything is fine. He could have easily used words in order to convince Kei that the relationship is fine and that there's nothing to worry about. That, or he could have easily taken her to many different places in order to ease her mind that everything was okay while having a discussion about the relationship. That could have been another way Ayanokoji could have convinced Kei. Now, with this being said, if they were to go on the route that Ayanokoji does decide to break up with Kei, I think it'll still be a very interesting thing to happen to the story, because I do wonder if this were to happen. I kind of do hope that this is a moment where Ayanokoji realizes, or maybe it opens his eyes, that Kei is somebody that is extremely valuable. Of course, this isn't something that's going to instantly happen as soon as they break up, because that would be really unrealistic and that wouldn't really make much sense, and that would just really be a bad decision in writing. I think if they were to go in the route where Ayanokoji does break up with Kei, I think it'll take some time, for obviously things aren't going to be great between them. And then for a while, Ayanokoji may decide to start a relationship with another girl, because he did state that he does want to know if another girl will be the one to make him feel some sort of thing. And I do see that happening. I do think that will be something really interesting to see. Now, in terms of who the girl will be if Ayanokoji decides to start a new relationship, well, obviously the biggest one that a lot of people will want to see is Ayanokoji and Ichinose, because as of right now, Ichinose has now become a very important character to the story, and she's been very open about her love for Ayanokoji. Of course, that is not to say that she's the only girl that's interested in Ayanokoji. I mean, the most recent volume in 9.5, we come to find out that Sakinagi also has a thing for Ayanokoji. Now, hers is a little bit more complex, and I am going to talk about this furthermore maybe in another future video, because her love for Ayanokoji is very interesting and it's something that is worth discussing. So maybe in a future video I'll talk into more detail about Sakinagi's interest in Ayanokoji. But yeah, Sakinagi is also another girl now that is interested in Ayanokoji. Now, of course, there's the other girl that is interested in Ayanokoji, and that is Kushida. Now, Kushida is very interesting because so far she hasn't really been the huge spotlight in this series, but it's very clear that now that we know that she has some sort of interest with Ayanokoji, I wonder if she's going to do anything about that, or is anything going to happen between them at all. I'm guessing that is something that we'll find out in the upcoming volumes. And of course, then we have the last one, which I'm not really too sure, but I did see people talk about it, and that is of course Hiori. Now, Hiori is a very interesting case as well, because she's really in the middle. On one hand, I could see her being really interested in Ayanokoji romantically, but on the other hand, you could also say that she's interested in Ayanokoji because he's not your average person. It's very clear for Hiori that Ayanokoji is different from the rest of the other people that she has talked to in her life. So with these reasons alone, I think Hiori is still in the middle, but of course, like I said earlier, we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the upcoming volume. So getting back on track, if they were to go on the breakup route between Ayanokoji and Kei, we may potentially see Ayanokoji start a relationship with a new kind of girl. And obviously this is going to bring a lot of drama. It's going to, do a lot of things for not just Ayanokoji as a character, but also his relationships with other people. This is obviously going to affect a few relationships with his classmates and maybe other people as well. Maybe some people are going to have different reactions when they find out that Ayanokoji is with another girl, because obviously this is high school, so these kind of things are going to be a heavy topic that a lot of the people are going to talk about around the school. So if they do go into this route in the story, what I would love to see is that if Ayanokoji is in a relationship with these other girls, I would like to see him realize that these other girls aren't nothing like Kei. Sure, they do have their benefits, and sure, they are doing things that are completely different from Kei and are going to act and behave and do things differently from Kei. Then this probably will be the moment where Ayanokoji realizes that maybe even though from the outside it may just seem that Kei was just dependent on him, there were some things that he generally did care about and did appreciate whenever Kei was around. I feel like this will be a really great character development for Ayanokoji, and this will open his eyes about the things about relationships, how not everything is black and white, because this is something that Ayanokoji, I feel like for the majority of this series has dealt with, is that he viewed things a lot black and white. He doesn't really see the bigger picture. And I'm not really blaming him, to be honest, because he doesn't really know anything about the outside world, because for most of his life he's been in the White Room thanks to his so-called father. So with that being said, I'm not going to say that everything is entirely his fault. No, there were just some things that he really did not have any control of. But as of right now, it's very clear that Ayanokoji isn't being honest with himself. Like, he's not really showing his full honest thoughts. I feel like sometimes he's just really trying to convince himself that he really doesn't have any special connections with anybody, which I feel is far from the case. I feel like there is somewhere hidden inside Ayanokoji where he does feel things for other people. But because he was in the White Room and he was taught in the White Room to not show emotions and to not express any emotion whatsoever, because apparently emotions are considered a weakness, which doesn't really make any sense because emotions are a huge factor in human nature. So because of that, Ayanokoji always in his head is thinking to never show any emotions whatsoever. Even though he's not in the White Room anymore, even though he doesn't really have to follow that procedure, he still thinks that way and he still acts that way, because that is something that has always been taught for his entire life. Never show any emotions whatsoever, never express them. So I really do hope that in the near future we see Ayanokoji finally be able to show his true honest thoughts about Kei, because I feel like he's not really being fully honest with himself and how he actually feels about Kei. Because seeing that illustration in the most recent volume in 9.5, seeing that illustration of Kei crying tears of joy, being happy that it seems that her relationship between her and Ayanokoji is going to be okay, is really happy but also heartbreaking at the same time. Because while it is good to see that Kei still really truly loves Ayanokoji and it's very clear that she is somebody that deserving of happiness, at the same time it's very heartbreaking to see because Ayanokoji is not really truly appreciating her at these moments. It's very clear that he's taking this relationship for granted, and as that saying goes, you don't really value something until you lose it. I feel like this is something that's going to happen to Ayanokoji eventually. Maybe once he's broken up with Kei, he will soon realize that Kei was somebody that was really worth being around with, somebody that he really shouldn't let go, and hopefully that does happen in the future as the series continues. And something else that's worth mentioning, there was actually a recent interview with the author of Clash of the Elite, this being Kinugasa, in which there was actually a few misunderstandings in what he was saying in the interview. Some people were saying how he outright just confirmed that there is going to be a Kyokai ending, which, don't get me wrong, I would love to see an ending in which Kiyotaka and Kei are the ones that end up being together towards the end of the story, but I feel like people are just really misunderstanding what he was actually trying to say. He didn't outright confirm that Kyokai ending is happening. This is what he said, and I quote, "But you see, in cliche, in a normal series, there's a pattern. Either a winning heroine is established and then they get together from the start and are together forever, or a heroine gets chosen at the end, or no heroine gets decided at the end, right? Generally, right, we have enough of those. It's a fine for lovers to change. It's also fine if they don't change, but I don't want to stay within such a frame. Not I wonder who will it be, but I don't know what will happen, and that way it's more interesting." So basically what the author is trying to say here is that the story can go anywhere pretty much. He doesn't really want to follow a certain pattern in the relationship of Ayanokoji and Kei, because that's been done so many times. Like, there have been many stories in which you can pretty much quickly tell who ends up with who and how long are they going to last. He doesn't want to make a story in which ultimately it's just people figuring out who is going to end up with Ayanokoji. No, he wants to see what is going to happen next. What is going to happen with the relationship of Ayanokoji and Kei, and as well as the other girls that are interested in him, which I think makes sense. Classroom Elite has shown many times that it's not your typical story. There's a lot of things that are done differently compared to other stories, and it's just very unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen with this series or where the story is going to go, because there's just so many details in this series that pretty much the story can go anywhere. Like, it's just up to the author to decide where he wants to take that story. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up because I've seen so many people say that, you know, Kyokai has been confirmed as the ending, you know, by the author. But no, as much as I love Kyokai, you have to understand that's not really what the author was saying. He was just simply trying to say that he's not denying that that could be the end game for the series, but also at the same time he's also saying that that's not all there is to it, that there's probably going to be things more to come with these two as the series goes on. So yeah, that's pretty much my entire video. That is the current state of Kyokai, and really I am looking forward for the future volumes and what's going to happen with these two, because this is far from over. Volume 9.5 was clearly a setup volume, because now there's more things to happen with these two, but as well as the other characters of the series, and I'm really looking forward to that. So with that, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.